Good morning, class 10. Let's start. We are going to start electrolysis today. Now here we have some common terms. First of all, we'll talk about the process, that is electrolysis. It is a process that involves decomposition of a compound in its aqueous solution or molten state that accompanies a chemical change by passage of an electric current through it. Okay, it basically involves decomposition of a compound, decomposition by passing current through that compound. Now, there are some terms that are associated with electrolysis. First term is electrolyte. Now, what are electrolytes? Electrolytes are the substances that allows current to pass through them either in their aqueous solution or molten state. So, those substances are electrolytes. Electrolytes are classified as strong or weak electrolytes. Now, strong electrolytes are the ones that allows large amount of electricity to pass through them, while weak are the ones that allow small amount of electricity to pass through them. Strong electrolytes are good conductors of electricity, while weak electrolytes are poor conductors of electricity. Strong electrolytes undergoes complete dissociation in their aqueous solution or molten state, while weak electrolytes undergoes partial dissociation in their aqueous solution or molten state. And last of all, in case of strong electrolytes, their solution consists of free ions, while in case of weak electrolytes, their solution contains both ions and molecules. If we come to the example of strong electrolytes, under acids, we have hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid. Under weak, the acids are oxalic acid, carbonic acid, acetic acid. Then under strong electrolytes, the bases sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide. Weak electrolytes bases calcium hydroxide, ammonium hydroxide, NH4OH. Last, salts under strong electrolyte. We have copper sulfate solution, okay, or NaCl solution, lead bromide, molten. And under weak electrolytes, the salts are ammonium carbonate or ammonium acetate. So these are a few examples of strong and weak electrolytes. Now next we move to the term non-electrolytes. Now non-electrolytes are those substances which does not conduct electricity either in their aqueous solution or in their molten state. That means they will not allow current to flow through them. Examples are what? Examples are distilled water, then carbon tetrachloride, carbon disulfide, sucrose, glucose, urea, etc. Next we have electrolytic cell. Now electrolytic cell is a non-conducting vessel in which the electrolysis is carried out. Okay, it consists of electrodes that are dipped in electrolytic solution, and it basically converts your electrical energy to chemical energy. That's why it's a chemical change. Electrical energy gets converted to chemical energy. Now after this we come to electrodes. Electrodes are either metal rods or graphite rods through which current enters or leaves an electrolytic cell. Under electrodes we have two types of electrodes. We have cathode, we have anode. Now cathode is the electrode that is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, while anode is the one which is connected to the positive terminal of the battery. Cations move towards cathode and anions move towards anode. At cathode, reduction occurs, while at anode, oxidation occurs. Now next term is ions. Ions are atoms or group of atoms that possess a negative or a positive charge. Under ions, we have two types of ions. One is your cation and another one is your anions. Cations are positively charged, anions are negatively charged. Cations move towards cathode during electrolysis, while anions move towards anode during electrolysis. Okay, at cathode, cations gain electrons to become neutral, while at anode anions lose electron to become neutral. So these are the following terms that are related to electrolysis process. After this, we have mechanism of electrolysis. Mechanism of electrolysis that was given by Arrhenius. He told when an electrolyte is dissolved in water, it will dissociate into ions that will conduct electricity. Second one, the degree of dissociation of an electrolyte is the extent to which it dissociates into ions. Third one, the movement of the ions are responsible for the flow of the current. The amount of electricity conducted by an electrolyte, it depends on the concentration of the ions in solution. And last of all, there is an equilibrium between the molecules of an electrolyte and its respective ions. Now after this we come to the characteristics of electrolysis. Now under characteristics of electrolysis, the first one we have, on passing electricity through an electrolyte, cations move towards cathode and ions move towards anode. Second one, the preferential discharge of the ions depends on the position in the electrochemical series. Third one, the number of electrons that is gained by anode is equal to the number of electrons donated by cathode. Fourth one, the products of electrolysis are formed at the anode and cathode itself, as the exchange of electrons occurs at the surface of the electrodes. At cathode only metals are liberated. At cathode only metals and hydrogen gas are liberated, while at anode non-metals are liberated. So these are the characteristics of electrolysis. Now electrolysis is a redox process. Now why is it so? Because in case of electrolysis, cations move towards cathode, undergoes reduction, while anions move towards anode, undergoes oxidation. So here oxidation, reduction occurring together, that's why it is a redox process. Next, we have some processes. Electrolytic dissociation. Now what is electrolytic dissociation? It is a process in which an ionic compound breaks into ions in their aqueous solution or molten state. Now we need to know these ionic compounds in their solid state, they will never conduct electricity, but in their aqueous or molten state, they will be conducting electricity. For example, NaCl in solid state does not conduct electricity. Why it does not conduct? Because in the solid state, the ions, that is sodium and the chloride ions, are held together by strong force of attraction, due to which the ions are not free, they cannot move. So they will not conduct electricity. But in aqueous solution, what happens? In aqueous solution, water is added. Now water possesses high dielectric constant that helps to weaken the force of the attraction. So the ions become free and they conduct electricity. In molten state, what happens? In molten state, high temperature is applied. That helps to break the force of attraction. So the ions become free. So in molten state, aqueous state, ionic compounds conduct electricity. But in solid state, they do not conduct electricity. Next, we have ionization. Ionization is a process by which polar covalent compounds form ions in their aqueous solution. For example, polar covalent compounds means like HCl is a polar covalent compound, where partial charge separation is possible. This is a polar covalent compound. Okay. Now this hydrogen chloride, it does not conduct electricity in gaseous state or pure liquid state, but it can conduct electricity in its aqueous state. Now why is it so? Because in gaseous or pure liquid state, free ions are not formed, so they will not be conducting electricity. But in aqueous state, what happens? Water is present and ions are formed. What are the ions formed? That is hydronium ion and chloride ion formed. Now why ions are formed? Because water is also a polar covalent compound. So here this oxygen end is partially negative. Now this partially negative end is pulling this partially positive end of HCl towards itself. It exerts an attractive pull, due to which this bond, this HCl bond, easily breaks. And we are getting this hydronium ions and chloride ions, and so it can conduct electricity in its aqueous state. Is it okay, class 10? So that's it. Thank you.